Welcome back. This is still Sharpn Still. I got some wonderful queens with me today. I'm gonna let y'all introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Alexandria Smith, and I'm Brooklyn's newest favorite teacher.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I am an amazing teacher.
I'm weak. She didn't want to say the location. Oh man. But today we're gonna basically just speak about just being a black educator in the 21st century. This is just organic conversation. You don't gotta be shy. Relax. But really main so just trying to convey the message of the importance of an educator right now. So I just wanted to ask y'all, y'all being an educator. So first of all, tell the people who y'all teach, the age group. I need to hear all that. I need that.
Well, I teach first grade. I love the babies. That's the molding period. Older kids, I love to see them get there, but I like to start with them.
But what grade? So you pre-K?
No, I have first grade. So that's
so it's
age 6 doing 7 by the end of the year.
And I know it's a huge leap. What's your grade?
So I deal with the older kids. Last year I taught high school, 9th, 10th, and 12th grade, and that was a great experience for my first year of teaching because I'm fairly young. So I was able to understand them in certain ways that older teachers might not understand them. This year I'll be teaching 8th grade. I'm excited because I feel like that's a good transition age. They're about to be in high school. They don't know, they're feeling grown, but they're not there yet. So it should be fun.
So y'all being in total first grades and 8th grade, that's two different spectrums. But what challenges y'all feel like y'all face on the normal? Matter of fact, before we even get there, what's the average day at Rachel's class and the average day at Alex's class and being in both grades?
For first grade, I definitely will say the average every day is emotions.
Mm-hmm.
As little kids, I feel like when they come into the classroom, it's emotions that they had from home, emotions from friends, or just not understanding how to not be in charge of their emotions, but deal with how they're feeling and how to express that, to explain it to a teacher or explain it to a friend. Or sometimes it's an emotion that they can't understand that someone passed to them. So I think on a daily basis before education, it's definitely emotion.
So do you more so feel like it starts from home?
It can start from home. It could start from the walk to school. It could start from how a teacher said good morning to them or how their friend said good morning to them. If it wasn't upbeat, then it's okay, that might throw them off because they're still learning their feelings. They're still learning what sad is, what angry is. So. And
it's crazy because you saying that and being a first grade teacher, and it's a whole different perspective when you talk about Alex, she teaching the 8th grade, and the emotions is different if you think about it. You know what I'm saying? From first grade to 8th grade. So what about you, Alice? What's the normal average?
Like Rachel said, emotions play a big part in everyone's day. If your child, if your student comes to school and they had a bad night, a bad morning, it's kind of you have to deal with that first before you try to teach them because you'll be talking to a wall kind of sort of thing. And if you grew up in New York, if you grew up in Brooklyn, you're facing different challenges every day, whether it be your home, economics, family, your own certain emotions, friends, your community. You're going through a lot. So I feel channeling with their emotions first is always important because that's a part of your classroom management. And that if you don't deal with their emotions, you're not going to be able to teach them anything because they're going to deal with different stuff on their mind. And
so how do you successfully deal with their emotions? I was going to ask you, both y'all, how do y'all fill that gap? How do you be that voice?
I'm big on communication. Speak to me, let me know so I can meet you where you are. If you're having a bad day, more than likely you can tell when a student's having a bad day, and you can pull them out, take them to the side, see what's going on. If they need their little time, give them that time because you have to put yourself in that shoes. When you were that age, you wanted your little time to get yourself together, to regroup, and just get back to what you needed to be. Speaking to them on my personal time, just making sure that they have you as an outlet because, like I said, the kids go through stuff every day like we do, but they're going through it and they don't know how to handle it.
I guess for me it would be the idea of being seen. I feel as when you're in that age group of being 6 and 7, it's they're either doing too much or they're doing too little.
Yeah.
So 6 and 7 is they want to be seen. So sometimes their emotion is their emotion, and granted we're all entitled to our emotion, but it's that area around I see you. I see that you're going through something. And sometimes just for them to be acknowledged and not forgotten, because it's easy for them to be, oh, they're a little kid, you know, they'll get over it. Like that 2 seconds, I'm saying like, I see you, we're gonna push through this. I know you came in a little bit rough, because sometimes you have to acknowledge it and graze on it so that they don't dwell in it. So I feel like for my students, I definitely like, when they come in the morning time, it's like that little eye contact, like good morning, such and such, good morning, such and such. And that really sets the tone. Like, I see you, I see what you coming with, but hopefully by the end of the day, what you came in with is not going to be the same mindset or the same emotion that you left with. Like, something's going to build on.
Just going off of what Rachel said, I feel like that's very important. Like, kids need that. They need to feel respected. They need to get that hello. They need to, how are you? Like,
I like that.
Certain things like that they don't get from home. They don't, like, people, like she said, they aren't seen. There's kids and adults. Like, we're young adults. We got other things going on. So they're kind of like, they get kind of bypassed, and they need that. They need structure, and they need, like, respect. A lot of kids, especially these days, if you're not giving it to them, they're not going to give it to you. Like, that's just how it's.
Nah, I definitely respect that. And y'all speaking about just respect. But like, I feel like when you're like a parent and you do have like kids, especially just young kids of African descent, we tend to like not ask them specific questions that it could be something simple, like, you know, what makes you happy, or is there anything I did wrong? And I feel like y'all just being the example of just being a teacher, because when they're not home, where they at school.
Yeah.
So like, with y'all being like the, you know, just the forefront of being at school and stuff, like, how do you develop their confidence and their self-worth? I feel like a lot of kids right now don't have that. They lost their value of worth. And, you know, it all comes from home. It could come from anything.
So for me, like, working with high school, you definitely see, like, we live in an era of being an entrepreneur and starting your own business, and that dwells on kids too. Like, I had ninth graders telling me, like, oh, I don't want to go to college because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But it's like, yeah, that's fine. You could want to do here, but have a plan behind that. Like, know how to do business, know how to handle certain things, so you're not working outside. Like, it's nothing wrong from working outside of, like, your house or something, but you want to elevate yourself. It's not, you got to think about the bigger picture and everything, and I think that's something that you have to shoot for kids, because they're in their own mind of, you don't really need school, I want to get money. Especially my high school kids. Like,
because you got 8th grade,
yeah,
too.
they want to get money. They don't really care about, oh, I want to go to the next grade. Like, they want to get fly, they want to do this. So just providing them with a bigger picture, like, yeah, school may not be fun all the time, but you can make it what it is, and you can make your own fun. You can start a club. Just expand what you want to do. Have a bigger picture for everything.
And what about you, sis?
For me, because I had first grade, that idea of like money, they don't really understand it. The idea of making their own, they don't really understand it to that capacity. So I feel like, for me, I have to push like that like that potential. Like, they're gonna be struggling mostly because they have to be in school from K to 8th grade.
Yeah.
And honestly, until high school. So for me, I feel like I have to push that, like, listen, school is not going to be easy. It may not be something that you want to do, but, like, really just balancing, like, the fun implemented in school. Like, education is something that is going to put you forth, but realizing, like, there's other ways that you can do it, but you need to try it at first before you, like, see other ventures and stuff. So,
But how do you do that in both of y'all? How do you do that to a 13-year-old, 12-year-old? That's 8th grade, right? Like 14. How do you do that to the 6-year-old as well? Like, how do you like give them the specific resources or the specific information that's needed to like branch off in different horizons rather than education?
Well, I feel like, all right, so like bringing it back to like when we were in school and like we had like career day and stuff like that. I feel like now, in certain school systems, they feel like education is an equalizer. But you cannot make education the equalizer and not see the whole child.
What you mean by equalizer?
It's the thing that puts, speaking about like black or like brown babies or whatever, like they use education as the equalizer that puts us kind of on the stepping stone to like be on the same playing field. That's one thing that if you get, you have more of a, you know, nice playing field to play on. So I feel like in being a teacher, you want to like incorporate, okay, education is this way, but also, like, there's other things you can do, like that creative piece. Because that creative piece is what balances the motivation to stay in education. Because now you're going to say, like, oh, okay, I want to be educated, but I also want somebody to see me on that playing field so that when I mix my creativity with my education, like, I'm able to have that extra push, or I'm able to have that extra, like, boost or that extra tip.
Because they was taught that at that time.
Right. So I feel like, for me, it's like, when I see kids that are not, because you see it from a very young age, like they're not involved in school, like they don't find interest in that, like they don't like school, and everyone's not gonna like school.
But how do you make a kid like school?
You can't make a kid
like school.
You can make them like the experience.
That's just
I feel like that's just I feel like that's the structure of education in our country. I don't know worldwide, but I just feel like America, like,
you can make a child like understand. You can make it fun for them. You can't force something like if they didn't grow up knowing like, okay, school is this is it. That's not, you can't force that on them. But what you can do is when they're in your classroom, making an experience that they want to come back.
So speak about that. How y'all make it fun? Because if I'm 14 in the 8th grade, I'm thinking about girls. I'm thinking about high school. I'm not really thinking about, like, you know, taking my PSAT, and I'm not thinking about that.
So for me, I have like older kids. I just try to be as real with them as possible. Like they look at me and they be like, "Oh, you're so cool. Like you young and cool." But it's like it's work to get here. Like you're not gonna just be outside playing your block thinking, "Yeah, like you gotta try." And I'm real with them. Like, yeah, we can have fun, but I need you to do your work too. Like I meet them in the middle. Like you want to do this. Cool, you could do it, but make sure your work is done at the end of my class. Make sure that you're able to participate. Make sure when I call on you, your class is not about to laugh at you because you don't know what you're about to talk about. At the end of the day, like, especially working with Black and brown children, we're at a disadvantage, and I'm gonna be like, if I'm annoying, cool, but I'm gonna be on top of you. Like, at the end of the day, you can still talk to me about whatever you want, but I need my work done, and I need you to try.
Yeah, especially right now. Like, right now we're living through a racial injustice crisis. It's just so many things to talk about, but like, how do y'all, like, well, I do want to speak to y'all about, like, just being a teacher right now, because right now with the whole COVID thing, it is something that y'all got to adjust to as well. So, like, what are some strategies, what are some things you guys use to develop, you know, effective education and the communication in the classroom, even if it's virtually or in person? I know you guys probably have different stories, but explain.
So for me, right now in my location where I'm at, we're all virtual, so it's big on like parent communication and involvement. I feel like never before, like parents are more involved. They have to, like they don't have a choice, because they no longer can just drop their kids and say I did my part. You have to actually make sure like your kid can sign into a classroom and your kid knows and has the materials, or they know the work to do, because now exactly, so it's like a level of accountability that parents have that they've never had before, or that they pushed on to the teachers. So I feel like being transparent, one of my biggest things with being a teacher was the parent communication. Like, I actually dreaded that part, because you can want so much and see so much in a child, but if it's not practiced at home,
then it won't,
then it's not going to transfer over for longevity. So during COVID, I feel like a lot of parents they have their own situations. They have other things. So like it builds the relationship between parent and teacher like in a way that's never been before. So we're able to like be in homes now. We're able to see how a parent talks to their child. Like we're able to see
you're hearing the things. You're hearing the bloopers. You're hearing the off scenes and yeah.
So that gaining understanding for what the child is going through at home and connecting it to how it might affect their academics, like it's like really like.
But it's a big correlation. Like everything comes from home, but I mean that may be different because some people may be going inside or work from home as well. What about you, sis?
So for me, I'm back in the building.
Coronavirus.
I'm back in the building, but what was I about to say? Yeah, so we're back in the building, and I basically spent this week like building up my classroom, setting it up and stuff like that, because the kids were supposed to come in on the 21st.
Yeah.
Something that Rachel said, it's very important to have parent involvement. Like if you want at least some type of success, you have to make sure that the parents know, because kids lie. They will say they don't got a password. They said they never got their login. They don't got class. They don't got homework. So you have to communicate with the parents first. Like that's important. Even if you feel like the parents aren't involved or doing the right things, you know that you did that effort, and that's like the first steps. Then making sure that like you reach out to the kids, because like I said, they're going through their own little things. They're handling this pandemic way differently. Kids are going through it. Some kids are isolating themselves. Like you just have to make sure that their emotions are intact before you even start teaching, because it's been a lot these past couple.
It seemed like the foundation is just really emotion.
Yeah.
And connecting with that
You
individual.
have to connect with your child to get something there. And for me, the school I'm at, like, they're big on, like, advocacy and just setting an example. So, like, I got tested for coronavirus, guys.
Uh-oh.
I never wanted to. That is the most uncomfortable thing ever. But it was like, that was my principal, setting an example for the kids that are coming into the building on the 21st. Like, just for the parents to see, like, get tested. And this may make us all stay home. Who knows? But it's good to set an example. So you be what you want your kids to be. Like, be positive.
So I was going to speak about that. Like, example is really vital, especially right now. Yeah. And you guys being an educator, they're teaching who they see almost all the time. How do you be that example though? You just getting into it.
Oh, so for me, I like try not to wear my, like, I'm very emotional, but at school or at work, I take that face off. Like, I try to keep on.
You have to though.
Yeah, like, you have to, because kids wear on what they seeing and what they feeling. So I try to keep a positive face, because like I said before, I don't know what they're going through, and kids really, like, the way kids handle their emotions, they're not rational. They don't know how good decision making. So they could see something and that could tick them off, that could trigger them. Like, you just have to be like a positive front for them, an outlet for them. Make sure that they feel comfortable being able to speak to you. So that's my way.
How you feel, sis?
So for me, I feel like because they're little kids, like, they look at the physical, how they look, and how you carry yourself.
I think all kids, they will tell you about yourself.
I feel like that's very important, because if you don't have that effective communication with that parent, how you going to be able to deliver the correct way to, operate with that child? You know what I'm saying? So y'all spoke about just like the challenges y'all face, but I do want to ask y'all, like, what made y'all want to become a teacher in the first place? Like, what was like, oh, I want to be a teacher one day?
Well, in all honesty, when I was little, I said, I want to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was a teacher. So I was like, no, like, I can't be following mommy. Like, that's not what's about to happen. So I think I ran from it. And then it was just like, boom, like, God just dropped it in my hand. And he was just like, that's what you're going to do. That's what you're called to do. And it kind of was just like natural. Like, it's my natural environment. I feel like me outside of being a teacher is different from me. Like, it's like two different people. It's like when I walk in the classroom, that's my stage. Mm-hmm. You know how singing got their stage? Like, my classroom is really like, I
so it's like a home. It's like second home for
it's
you.
natural. Like, I don't have to do too much. It's just real. Like, everything flows. Any mistake is supposed to happen. Anything that go on, it's just natural. Like, the energy, you could feel it. Like, the kids feed off of me, I feed off of them, and it's just, that's it.
So for me, my story's a little different. I went to college to be a criminal justice kind of girl. Like,
that's a whole 360.
Yeah, I wanted to be a juvenile probation officer, but as a graduation kind of approached, like, I realized I love kids and I wasn't really comfortable with the predicaments I might be put in. Like, that just didn't sit well with me, because I, as a kid, like, made my own mistakes, and I'm here. So I just wanted somebody to, like, then I was a case manager, and I really like helping people. Like, that's my niche. But yeah, like, I worked with men first, and then I worked at family shelters, and my children at my family shelters really was like, that's what drive me at work. Like, seeing them and wanting better for them was like, okay, like, I really do love kids. Then my friend is a teacher. My guy friend is a teacher, and he kind of put me onto, like, his little program thing, and then I got started with that. And my summer training, I was like, okay, this is hard, but I love it. Like, it's worth it. Like, teaching is not easy peasy. Like, people think we just with people kids all day. It's cool. Like,
nah, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's worth it. Like, when you see your kid, like, if your kid is struggling with something and you see them, like, finally getting it, like, that's a rewarding feeling. Or they're even coming to you comfortable to talk about anything. Like, that's rewarding. Like, I don't have kids, but those are my kids. Like, those are my babies. So, like, it's a cool feeling.
Nah, it's good. You feel like those are your babies as well?
Those are my babies.
Yeah, those are my babies. Like,
I call some of them, like, you're my son. Like,
really?
Your mom gave birth to you, you are my son. Like, it's, my first year teaching will always be the most memorable. Like,
yeah, because that's like your first.
Yeah.
Even with you, right? It wasn't 8th grade though.
No, that last year was high school. It was my first year, and it was rewarding. Like, even during, like, coronavirus, I had students emailing me like, "Thank you for coming here this year. Like, you really helped it a lot. Like, you changed a lot." And it was just like, that's like, at the end of the day, you pick your feet up. Like, that's the reward.
So what's the goal? Like, if you was to have a specific goal for every individual, every child in that classroom, what's Alex and Rachel's goal? Period.
My goal goal is I want them to learn something. I want them to leave my class and take something with them, whether it be how to carry yourself a little better, how to speak to people. You learn something in class. Like, I want you to remember me for teaching you something. I didn't give up on you, and I don't want you to give up on yourself. Like, that's something I always tell kids. Like, don't give up on yourself. It may get hard, it may get tough, you may get frustrated. People might doubt you, but never give up on yourself.
I love that.
Yeah. For me, I guess it's kind of similar. It's along those two lines. For me, I feel like when I think about, like, even for us, like, growing up, like, our most memorable teachers is the teachers that pushed us, like, or the teachers that stood out, or the teachers that did something that was, like, out of the norm.
Yeah.
But for me, I think of one word when I think of, like, my students, and I think of potential. Because I feel like that's one word that every child grows up. Somebody say, like, yo, I see potential in you. I see you could do this. And I feel like it's a word that's thrown out, but it's not a word that's carried through. So for my kids, it's like, I know that it's hard. I'm not going to tell you it's not hard. But I'm going to tell you what I see for you, but you got to put in that self-motivation to get there.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me,
but sometimes kids don't have that, though.
They don't. And you have to help them with that. Like, people, like, being a teacher, you wear many hats. You're a counselor, you're a parent, you're a teacher. You're like, you have to really be there for them, because they may not be getting that at home. They may not feel comfortable telling you the things they're feeling at home. Like, you wear many hats, and you just gotta take that.
I want to ask you a quick question. Like, y'all both being Black educators, I feel like if you look currently right now, like, the peak of Black educators is rising. There's more Black teachers than it ever was.
Correct. And
that's very important. But, like, when there is, like, another teacher of a different descent, this doesn't happen all the time, because I have a lot of teachers that's non-Black that I relate to so much. But, like, a lot of other teachers that's coming from different descents, they can't relate to that kid's culture, you know, being of African descent, being Black, right, being raised in Brooklyn, being raised in New York, whatever it is, or America. How do you, like, what is some ways you relate to that kid's culture?
So for me, the first school that I worked at was actually supposed to be my first high school that I was supposed to attend. I grew up in the area that I started teaching in, so it was like, I understand y'all struggles. Like, I understand you may have beef here and there. Like, I understand all that because I was once your age. So it's like, just letting them know, like, I was once there, and this is how you can handle it. You don't always have to fight somebody. You don't always have to curse somebody out. You don't have to be rude. Like, it's certain ways to carry yourself, especially if you want to make it further than the hood. You gotta elevate out of that. You have to think of the bigger picture. Like, that's always my saying. Like, there's always a bigger picture to everything, and not every action needs a reaction. Your teacher may have pissed you off, but you don't have to curse out. Like, just handle it differently.
For me, it was a little bit different. Growing up, I had like Asian. I've had a Black teacher. I've had Indian. Like, I've had Spanish. Like, I've had like a variety of teachers. So me coming in, I didn't. And then working in like urban areas, it wasn't a problem in terms of that, but I feel like in having different teachers, it helped with like the communication flow. So like when I interacted with other races or other things, the communication had like a flow because I wasn't used to just interacting with people of my race. But I will say though, that a child looking at you and you teaching them and they look like you, that's a different motivation. It's
a different connection too.
It is. It's very, it's genuine. It feels real. It's certain stuff like, it's like called like culturally responsive teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're able to like, just like jump into certain things, and not to say you don't have to think about it, but you understand it more. It's no breakdown or no like, you have to watch what you say, but it's like, you get me and I get you. Like, it's no...
We're going to be real with each other.
Yeah, like that gap, that bridge is different. So I feel like even with like my white colleagues and stuff, it's certain things that they ask me like, oh, like, did I say this wrong? Or like,
really?
Oh, you have to though, because it's like...
hypothetically, if you don't mind embracing it, but like, what was like something that what was like a pothole you ran through with like a white colleague in regards of like, did you say something appropriately? Was it culture oriented?
So a quick example would be like a white teacher telling a Black girl, like, your hair looks very beautiful, or I like that. Or sometimes like my students will come to school and their hair is not done. So the white teacher would ask me like, oh, can you fix her hair? Because right there is a moment where she doesn't know how to even deal with that. Or like certain terms like, oh, that's beautiful. But then the kid would say like, oh, your hair is beautiful. So like even like just the difference in how they look, it sets a tone for how they feel about themselves. So the teacher can't say like, oh, your hair is beautiful, and say, black girls, we all come with like, different grades of hair. You know what I'm saying? So she can't say to a girl that might have a different curl pattern, it might be a looser or tighter curl, like, oh, that's beautiful, and not say that to a girl that has like more of a afro or something like that curl, because that already is setting a tone because she doesn't look like them. So now that message of what looks beautiful may be different. So it's certain things that like a white teacher might say like, oh, like, can you fix her hair, Miss Ferguson? Can you do this, because I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like, it just comes off differently.
That's crazy. And like, just speaking of that, like, it's crazy because you in the first grade, but I guess in your environment there is white colleagues as well, European descent, and it's like so cool to have a melting pot sometimes. But then when you go by Alex, I'm sure your environment is totally different.
So for me, my first year I worked at a predominantly white staff. And this year I work at a predominantly black staff, and it's very different, especially
Tell
with
the
the
difference,
way
please.
they
I need
handle
to
the
hear.
kids. Like, it's very, very different. Like, I came from a school where majority of the teachers were teaching for like 20 plus years, and as a teacher you have to be open to new ideas and new things, because kids learn differently. Not every kid is just going to learn with stuff on the board. Like, you have to think of different things. As a teacher that's, what should I say, seasoned, they're not very open to new ideas. They're not very open to so it's kind of like coming in like that. I'm a new teacher, I got this, I want to try this. They're not really with that aspect, and they're not very understanding to, I don't want to say they don't care, but like a kid could act out and they're ready to kick them out the class, rather than understanding like, okay, what's going on.
Understanding rather than reacting.
It's quick to, you get out of my class, rather than, okay, what's wrong, or writing you up. It's certain things that like I was seeing, it just wasn't comfortable. And I'm a sped teacher, so I always have a co-teacher with me, and it will always be like, not a conflict, but we see things differently, so we would handle things differently, and it just shows me like, okay, this is not really what I'm comfortable with.
So do y'all think it's important to have like a melting pot of different teachers, like, black, Asian, like I'm talking about in terms of y'all staff?
I feel like color really doesn't matter. Once you have a teacher that cares and is willing to learn, that can create a beautiful space. True,
but sometimes a lot of teachers, they can be understanding, they can be very empathetic, but they still won't be able to understand the culture because they go very back to original questions.
But just like school, you're here to learn.
Yeah.
So you can't, just because you don't know, and if you're willing and open to learn, like, I don't know everything. I may not understand how Tina may feel, but if I'm willing to listen and willing to try, then I feel like that's a beautiful space. Because going back to what Rachel said, it's important for especially African American children to understand how to deal with all type of people. Like, yes, it's cool that all your teachers is black, but you need to learn how to talk to someone who's of a different culture, of a different race. Like, you need to be able to have that certain respect, even if y'all have different views on life. So I feel like it's important to have that range. Like, growing up molding, yes, it's cool to have all black teachers, but it's also important to have that range, because once we let them outside our school building, you're in the world, you're in college, that's a whole different melting pot. We live in New York City. You're going to see different people of different races and all types of stuff. You have to learn how to handle that.
You got to expand your horizon.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so crazy, because like I do want to dive more into like focus on like just those young black kids. So like right now, with everything going on with these young black kids, like what are you guys doing to deliver that correct education to let them understand their history? Filling those gaps that they never had, that we never had growing up. What are you guys doing right now to make sure that when they come out your class, when they come out of 12th grade, they be able to understand, ownership, black-owned businesses, whatever it is that's going to put us in progress? What are y'all doing for that specifically?
So for me, when I taught high school, something that I really liked, and I probably didn't appreciate it when I was in high school, was my government economics class. Like, I taught government and economics, and those are very major keys of, I think, life that people should understand.
Like breaking the economic power.
You should know. You should understand the government. You should understand how systematically things play out. You should understand money. Like, things like that are essential for our young kids. Like, I didn't take that. I really didn't take those classes seriously. But when teaching it, it was like, okay, you could. Now we're in an era of Donald Trump. We're about to have an election. We were able to have like our own election. People were able to vote. Just understanding those things because it's important. Like, especially as a Black community, we don't care. Well, I care, but a lot of people don't care about voting.
Yeah, at all.
That is so important, and that starts from a young age. Like, you have to understand, like, vote, have your voice being heard. You may not feel like your one little voice matters, but as a whole, if y'all come together, it will work.
So real quick, Rachel, before you go, sis, but how would you, like, you said government and economics, right? Mm-hmm. So how would you, like, what tools, what kind of resources, what kind of education would you provide for those kids in that specific subject to understand what they have to do so when they're out of there? Like, what would you?
So for me, we definitely had like different, like, I feel like, how do I say this? Project-based learning is like kind of, it's important, and it's a way, it shows, rather than putting things on paper, it's giving them a chance to dive in and understand, like, okay, this is how this works. Like, I'm teaching you it, but if you're doing it on your own hand and trying to figure out a business, you making your own business, and you have to show me all the compartments to that. You're understanding how to break things down, understanding money, you're understanding how to work with people, you're having your own business, you have to show me basically when I'm teaching you, and you kind of get it while you're, like, that's how I learn in a sense too, like, doing it repetitive, practicing, that's important.
So you said economics, finance. So what about you, sis?
For me, my age group is different. So when it comes to like certain skills that they need as like in Black leading and feeling like they want to own their own, I feel like it has to be tied to their age. Like, it has to be age appropriate. I feel like with the climate of the community now, I feel like we're forced, and we think that as kids, we want to like force them to know certain things, but you don't want to take away a child's innocence. Mm-hmm. And I feel like based on the climate of everything, like even the Black Lives Matter like movement and stuff, you don't want to say to a 5-year-old, like, when you see a cop, you gotta be scared. Yeah. You don't want to say to a 5-year-old, like, okay, when you're walking on the street, do this, do that. Because now you're taking away their freedom of just being free and just living. And granted, you want to make them aware, but you don't want to make a child in that age group, because I've been teaching first grade for 3 years. You don't want to make a child in that age group feel like they can't live, because that is already, remember, in first grade you're learning emotions. You're learning just how to deal with loving yourself.
It's a lot of personal development.
Right. So in that aspect, I feel like it's a lot of affirmations. So in first grade, I teach my kids a lot of affirmations. Like, and some of them is not just focused on how they look, it's what they can do. So I'm really good at this, or like, I really love karate. Like, I can't wait to do this one day. Like, envisioning themselves to be greater than what they look like, or like people in their community and people that they see or people that they don't see. You know, like, that's a big thing. So I feel like it's affirmations, it's hope to be something bigger. I feel like with history and stuff like that, during like Black History Month and stuff like that, that's like a projected time that you have like set out to like do certain things that are related to the community. But
you gotta do that every day though.
You have to do it every day through affirmations, but at the same time, you cannot allow how they look to be the forefront and the main focus, because you want them to get education. The purpose of school is education. Now you can incorporate education and history through how you do it. You can incorporate it. That's affirmations. That's telling them like, okay, certain things are happening within their community. How do you feel about it? That piece of expression really does make a difference on how they see things or how they're able to gain their opinion. But if we just constantly like push like history, like I had a student, and it's sad, but I had a student, she said, did what Martin Luther King did really matter? And this is in first grade. And it really like kind of like resonated with me, because you're in first grade and you're thinking like, wow, like what has changed? And during that time, I think I was, I can't remember the exact lesson that I was teaching, but it was like in regards to like her understanding slavery and her basically connecting slavery to the era of Martin Luther King, and then comparing it to like, okay, but what do we have now? You know, and this is in the first grade. So I feel like in that's a perfect example of she's observant of her surroundings. First grade, they know things, you know, so like giving them too much before they're able to grapple with it is something that we cannot do. You don't want to take away from how they're building on to what they think and just give it to them, because now you're taking away their choice to believe, like, okay, I want to believe this and I want to believe that, because we're giving them knowledge before they're able to handle. So, yeah, I just think
Do you think more so it's just adaptability in a sense? And letting the child just live?
Not letting them live to be oblivious, but letting them to live in their moments. Don't take away something before you see it. Now, you could teach a child when they see something happen. Say you were to see, you was walking and a parent was with their child, or you want to address it in that moment. Mm-hmm. You don't want to give them more to address before they see it, because now you're presenting fear. And that fear is going to take away who they are and who they're supposed to be.
Just to piggyback off of Rachel said, like, feeding to their fear is like, you shouldn't do that. Like especially in the time and I was dealing with older kids and they were upset, and you don't add to that with your own opinions and like your own opinions and thoughts. Like, let them know that they're important. Let them practice things in school to let them know that they have a voice, they're important, they matter. Because at the end of the day, they're outside, they're with their friends, they all got their own thoughts and they're angry. Especially growing up in certain areas, you're gonna feel some type of way. But as a teacher, I'm never gonna tell you hate the cops. There are good cops, there are good people, there are good teachers, there are people that will care about you. So just providing that outlook for them, like, there is, even though we are in some rough times, there are people that aren't like that. There are people that care about you. Like, just never give up on yourself and continue to be resilient. Like, I think that's a big thing, especially for like older children.
Yeah, because you have 8th grade, and then with the 1st grade, like, both questions, how do y'all make them, well, because 8th grade students, they are very aware. But like, I think it was more so like how you convey that message to do the correct thing for the 8th graders. But like with you being 1st grade, how do you make them more aware? Because it's just so unfortunate that that little girl said that. When you look at like social media, and MLK granddaughter was protesting as well, which is 60, 70 years later, and it's like, did anything ever change? So like, what message do you like? If it's something that you want these kids to grab on to, like, right now, like what's present to them right now, what would it be so they can be in a better position when they go to that next grade in terms of what's going on? Because I feel like you're more so like with personal development. These 8th grade students, they very aware, but what do you say next?
I feel like for me, I just keep reminding them that you have to think of the bigger picture and everything. Like, I keep residing back to that, because you really do have to think of the bigger picture. Like, for myself, growing up, I have my own personal issues, and I could have made the left or right turn. I had to think about the bigger picture and what I wanted for myself. Did I want to continue doing this or be in this type of crowd, or did I want to be something with my life? Like, you have to remind them and give them the alternative. Like, this is what's gonna happen if you do this. This is what's gonna happen if you do this. It's now your decision to make that decision, and hopefully you pick the right one. But no, you weigh out your options. Think of the bigger picture and everything that's going on. Like, regardless if you're upset, think about where you want to be. If you want to be the next doctor, the next whoever, you want to be something, you got to push for that.